Well, we've come a long way now with the MyPad World app for the iPad. And it looks like we have all the pieces in place. So we're ready to test the new modal view that we added. So now we're back in MyPad World. And you can see in our MyPad World View controller, our main view. And we can scroll the interface builder to see all of the view. And we have an info button here, the light info button, which will bring up our modal view. And our modal view is in settings view controller.xib. And again, we can look in interface builder. We can actually close the dock here so we can see more of it. And there it is. So it looks like all the pieces are in place and we're ready to roll. So let's select up here our project. Make sure that we are set properly here in devices, iPad, and deployment target 4.3 for the target MyPad World. And we'll check the scheme, which is right here, the active scheme, which is set to iPad 4.3 simulator. So now we are ready to run the app, which actually does a build and a run based on the current scheme. So let's cross our fingers and see if this is really going to build and run. It immediately compiles, says build succeeded. That's a good sign. Launches the simulator, installs the app in the simulator, and there it's running. So we haven't affected the animation. That's working fine. The big question, though, is now to find out what happens with the light info button. Now, before we do that, there's something we forgot to do, and that is to see what this looks like when we rotate the iPad. So we would choose in the hardware menu of the iOS simulator, rotate right. And as you can see, it immediately reoriented the view, and it looks fine. So let's go back to the hardware menu and rotate left, back to portrait mode. So our following words are set to the default value of Peace on Earth. Our speed is set to the default value of 10. Let's see if the modal dialog appears when we click the I button. And there it is, our modal dialog. It worked. It really is something to see this for the first time. So now let's see if we increase the speed, what happens. We drag the slider all the way up to here. And lo and behold, look at that. It's flashing by quickly behind the screen. We're actually seeing the speed in real time. So let's bring it back down. Let's slow it down a little. Now it's going very slowly. So let's bring it back up. And notice how the label, in this case, is actually telling us what the value is in real time, which is better than what the iPhone app was doing. And that's because we are using the main view controller to run the settings view controller as a delegate. We're able to capture in real time the speed, and we're able to funnel that information back to the label immediately. Now let's change the text as well and see if that works. We click inside the text field, and sure enough, our keyboard appears. So if we were tapping something else, we might want to tap, let's say, hello world. Hello world. So now we have hello world. We can actually tap here to get rid of the keyboard if we want to, but that's optional. And we can tap the done button to finish. And now, as you can see, it's showing us hello world. Now let's see what happens if we change the orientation now from portrait to landscape. Let's rotate left this time. In landscape mode, we have the animation, but what happens to the modal dialog? Let's try it. We'll click the info button. It appears just like it should. However, when we click inside the text field, something interesting happens. In landscape orientation, the keyboard is much larger, and so the modal view automatically slides up to accommodate the keyboard. How cool is that? We didn't even have to code that. That's thanks to the form sheet modal view style we chose in the initializing stage. So now we will actually go and type our favorite phrase. Okay, peace on earth, and we can just go ahead and click that done button from here. And we're right back to where we were before, peace on earth. And we go up to the hardware menu, we can rotate left again, and we're back in portrait mode. So now as you experiment with code and build and run your project, you need to delete the application and its data from the simulator if you change anything of significance, like before building and running again. The consequences of not doing so could become obvious when things don't work like you expect them to. So in order to do that, we really want to first stop the app from running. Remember, if you click the home button, which is now up here because our simulator is simulating an upside down iPad. If we click that double and then try a hardware rotate right and then another rotate right. If we click that double, we see that MyPad World is in the background. So in a way, it's still running. In order to stop it from running, we go back to Xcode and we click the stop button right here. Then we can go back to the simulator and we want to reset everything in the simulator before quitting. So we choose iOS Simulator menu, Reset Content and Settings, and we click this reset button. And now the iOS simulator is once again back in its native state, ready to test apps. And we quit the iOS simulator. So we've done quite a bit with the MyPad World app, but we're going to do a few more things.